Hey guys, over the last few weeks we've been trying to move through the Bible chronologically. This week we're supposed to have read Genesis 35 through 50 and Exodus 1 through 3. But let's step back a little bit. Some people say the Bible is boring. Well, let's look at this. We've seen the world created, man created, the first sins, first murder. Mankind flooded out because of evil. Then we were separated because we thought we could build a tower to God. We've seen angst, deception, blood, sex, murder, violence. It's like a rated R movie, if they could actually make this into a movie. It's kind of scary when you think this is the book of the Word of God. So what's he trying to tell us? Hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have a pretty good view of this and be able to live it out. So back to this week. Chapter 35 starts off with a recap. Jacob goes to Bethel, gets called Israel. Then we talk about the death of Rachel and Isaac. A little bit about Esau's descendants and some of the rulers of Edom in the next chapter. So then we move to Joseph. He's the next big character until the end of Genesis. Joseph is the brother you never want in your family. He has dreams that you bowed to him, that we served him, that he was special. Well, in that day and age, they were just going to kill him. But Judah talks the brothers into selling him off to slavery. He ends up in Egypt. In Egypt, he works for Potiphar. We have a quick little chapter, number 38, that has Judah getting Tamar, his daughter-in-law, pregnant. But he thinks she's a prostitute. Interesting story. Read it. It does have a tremendous amount of value and meaning in the future. We then move back to Joseph, sold to Potiphar. He is so productive that everything he touches, he does well. He's just exceptional at everything. At one point, Potiphar's wife tries to seduce him. He pulls away. She got his smock. He ends up in prison. While there, he meets a couple of Pharaoh's people, a cupbearer and a baker. They had some dreams. He interpreted them. One was good, one was bad. Well, the one that was good, he says, can you mention him to Pharaoh to get him out? Well, in time, which we're talking years, Pharaoh had some dreams, and he didn't know what they meant. All of his people couldn't figure out what it meant. All of a sudden, the cupbearer remembered Joseph, saying, hey, I know this Hebrew who can figure this out for you. Pharaoh gets Joseph out of prison. Joseph tells him what the dreams mean. It's about an up-and-coming famine. Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of it. At this time, he essentially became the second in command of Egypt. In time, his brothers had to go to Egypt to get some food. He recognizes them right away, but they don't recognize him. Well, he kind of messes with them a little bit. I think I would if I was him. He gives them some grain they need. He puts their gold back in there, but he wants to keep one of the brothers in jail so they will come back with the younger brother. The brothers come back when they run out of grain. And they come back with the youngest brother, with an oath to the father that they will bring him back home safely. So all of a sudden you have all the brothers standing there before Joseph. He gives them their grain, feeds them a great meal, puts the silver chalice in the youngest brother's sack. Then the next morning when they're leaving, he accuses them of stealing. He cuts open the bag, the cup falls on the ground. As they get ready to take Benjamin away, the brothers are so overcome with protection of him, including Judah, that his heart softens and he reveals himself to all the brothers. At this point in time, after the big reunion, they go back to Jacob. There's a little talk of lineage, and they talk about the famine some more, and in chapter 46, Joseph, Jacob, and all the brothers relocate to the land of Goshen, with Pharaoh's permission, of course. Jacob becomes ill, and he goes to bless Joseph's kids. But he blesses the younger one with his right hand and the older one with his left hand. Wrong way to do it, according to Joseph. But Jacob said the younger will be greater than the older, just like Jacob and Esau. Jacob blesses all of his sons in the end and ends up dying in chapter 42. He is buried in Canaan. All the officials and dignitaries of Egypt and Joseph's household and brothers all go to Canaan to bury him. The brothers are fearful because their father is gone. So they're wondering, what's Joseph going to do? But he tells them in chapter 50, verse 20, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is being done, the saving of many lives. Genesis ends with Joseph dying, and then we move to Exodus. In Exodus 1, it's kind of a synopsis of the Israelites. There's a new king. He doesn't really care for the Israelites. They end up being slaves. This is like a 400-year period. They've gotten so plentiful that the Pharaoh starts feeling threatened. So he asks the midwives to kill the babies. Well, the midwives say that the Hebrews were delivering before they got there. So then he says, throw them in the river. Here's where we have the Moses story. Moses is placed in a basket in the river. He is found by Pharaoh's daughter. He is raised Egyptian, but not only Egyptian, but Egyptian royalty. But in the end, he ends up being partially raised by his mother. The Egyptian court needed a wet nurse to provide this, and there she was. He ends up killing the Egyptian who was beating a Hebrew, and he is fearful at that time and leaves to Midian, and he ends up being a shepherd there. This is a 40-year period. He marries, he has kids. Then in chapter 3, he encounters God in the burning bush story. He gets some orders from God to set my people free. He argues with God about going, of course. You know how that goes. Think you'll win? Then he says, who shall I say is sending me? God tells him, I am who I am. Tell them the great I am sent you. This is in chapter 3, verse 14. Moses ends up heading to Egypt with Aaron with orders to set the people free and lead them into the promised land, the land of Canaan. That's pretty much what I have for this week. So next week, I guess we'll be looking at Moses. So thank you for watching Ken's Ketchup. Talk to you later.